All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mac City Morning Show. I am your host, Elliot Pierre. Thank you very much for tuning in. We are going to start this off the same way we start every episode off, with a moment of gratitude. I know you could be doing a million other things with your time, but the fact that you're spending with us truly does mean the world to me. Thank you very much. Now, on that note, Tanner, hit him with the intro.
How's she cutting me, loves? You're listening to the Mac City Morning Show.
All right, Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo, and the rest of the world, you are in for a treat today. We have, I think, hands down, the most popular person in Fort McMurray here today. I'm excited to have him on the show because although myself and him have bumped into each other numerous times, we both follow each other on social media. I've never actually had a chance to sit down and have a chat with this gentleman. So I'm super pumped about today's episode. As you know, I don't introduce my guests. I let them do that themselves. So on that note, can you please introduce yourself to the people at home?
So I am Mike Jones from Edmonton, Alberta. Been here in Fort McMurray for about 8 years now. Obviously had a little radio gig for a while there at Country 93.3 and decided it was time for a change. And now I'm working at the Canadian Mental Health Association with Buffalo.
There we go.
Doing marketing, comms, event planning, a little bit of everything. And it's kind of like it's sort of a dream job that I didn't even know I had a dream for.
There we go, man. That's awesome.
It's amazing. It's my first time in front of a live microphone in 3 weeks, too.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
I used to do this every day, and now I'm like, oh, how do I do this again?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you've been here for 8 years, and the impact that you've had on this community is huge. I don't know how you do it. You go to everything. You're a man about town. Like, where do you get the energy to do this?
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not a big fan of sitting at home. I mean, obviously, I do love my TV shows and my movies when I get a chance to watch them, but I find like I just get that restless energy. Like, do you ever have say maybe you had a big Saturday and then you're kind of just lazy all day Sunday, and then you lay around the house and you're like, this is perfect, this is just what I needed, and then it becomes like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and you're just sitting there like, there's got to be something going on. I got to go to an event or something. I got to do something here. I'm just sitting at home. Yeah. So I just I'm really an extrovert. I mean, as I'm sure most people can tell, I tend to feed off of other people's energy, and so there's sometimes where you do go into that Monday morning meeting and like I'll be dead tired, and if everybody else is dead tired and just not having it, that's not going to help me. I'm going to stay the same way. But if I go in on 2 hours sleep and like people are flying jokes and like jumping up and down and stuff like that, then I'm like I build off that energy and I'm good to go.
So Fort McMurray, you said you're from Edmonton. How did you find yourself here?
Well, I was taking the radio program at Nate down in Edmonton, and at the time, I mean, obviously knew exactly what Fort McMurray was, or thought I did.
Yeah.
I had a lot of friends from high school who came up here to work in the oil sands, right?
Okay.
Or I used to say they worked on the rigs, and then everyone's like, "There's no rigs up here." I'm like, I didn't know that, and I lived in Edmonton, like 4.5 hours away, right?
Right.
So, and my dad actually had worked a little bit, like he does security, and he worked at the Peter Pond Hotel. I think it was used to be called. I think that's where Bailey's is now, the Stonebridge.
That's right. That's correct.
So he said he was up here for like a month or two before I was born, but didn't even tell me that until I moved up here, right?
Right.
So I was in the radio program at Nate, and I got an internship in Grand Prairie. And while I was there at the rock station, Rock 97.7, there was a positioning opening up within the same company within Rogers here at Country 93.3 for the swing announcer position. So I applied for that, got it, moved up, and the rest is kind of history.
That's awesome. So why radio? Like what obviously from a young age you must have been attracted to it.
Yeah, so, I used to listen to, whether it was The Bear back in the day or a little bit later on when Sonic 102.9 launched. I was a big fan of them as well. Even before The Bear, I was like Power 92.
Right.
Used to be that was my jam back in the day, right?
Okay.
And I was always fascinated with the announcers. They always had like cool names and cool segues, and they were just like, I mean, it's a bit more casual these days, but they were all just like so like hip and kind of like, yo, what's up? You're listening to Power 92. And I just listen to that. I'd be like, man, this is fun. Like, I want to do this. And I remember like I actually had a tape recorder at one point, and I would like go around and like record myself introducing songs. I hope those tapes have been disposed of forever personally, because they were probably terrible. But I used to just like, it was always something I wanted to do. And I was like, this sounds like the kind of job where it's not work. Like it's
That's
just,
right.
it's just all fun.
Yeah. And it was for you. You loved what you are super passionate about that and what you were doing.
And what I discovered when I came up here was that radio was, I guess I learned this in college too. It wasn't all about sounding cool on the radio and having a good voice and, talking about the music and stuff. It was about community.
Right.
And that didn't really land until I got up here and I saw, a guy like Jerry Neville, or I saw a guy like Steve Reeve, and I saw how much they were out in the community and they were out doing events and they were going to everything, and people knew them. Obviously, they knew them for what they did and what they said on the radio, but they knew them particularly for just seeing them. They're like, I see him at the grocery store all the time. I see him at the movie theater. Things like that, right? Just that essence of community. So I quickly just decided, I'm going to go to every event, And I started doing that at first because I was bored and I didn't have any friends. But then once you start to make friends, you're like, well, I'm going to see them all at these events anyways. So let's go make more friends.
That's right. Yeah. You have tons of friends. Everybody knows you. Mm-hmm. And the one thing about you that I know you're a celebrity is nobody calls you Mike. It's Mike Jones.
That is actually, even back to my high school days, they use the full name anyways, which is so funny because in high school I was far from, I still don't like, I don't know, the term celebrity might be stretching it a little bit, I guess, whatever, but back in high school I was definitely not a celebrity at all.
Right.
But there was a rapper that came out around 2002, 2003, Mike Jones, and he would rap out his phone number in the song and be like, who? Yeah. And he was like, Mike Jones. So literally everyone would just be like, Mike Jones. And still to this day, I'll call like Canadian Tire or some like credit card, or they're like, hey, and then like the guy on the phone would be like, has anyone ever been like, hey, Mike Jones? And I'm like, yeah, constantly. For about 20 years.
That's hilarious. I know exactly who you're talking about.
And I get tagged in the memes all the time where it's like the owls like shouting who, and I'm yelling Mike Jones back at him. And I'm like, yes. I saw that before memes were a thing, I think, even.
That's hilarious. I never put that together.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, he used to shout out his cell phone number. Yeah. And it was like a legit cell phone number.
I think it was, I don't know if it still is, but you could definitely call it back in the day and like get his voicemail or his fan club or something.
So the one thing you were passionate about in this community, like you do trivia. Mm-hmm. How did you get into trivia?
Well, I've always been a fan. Like I always used to play
Trivial Pursuit
back in the day. It was we had like a really old, like probably the original version of Trivial Pursuit. So like, as much as some of the science and history categories were like, okay, you probably learned about this in school, the entertainment categories were very difficent.
Right.
you'd be like answering questions about Ben-Hur. Yeah. And it's like, I haven't even seen Ben-Hur yet at this point in my life, right? Yeah. So, but we used to play that a lot growing up, and then when I moved up here, it was one of the first regular activities I did. Is I got invited out by a couple friends, and we went out on every Monday night, and it was Steph Link back in the day. Right. She would host trivia nights at Tavern. Yeah. And Steph and I ended up becoming roommates a little bit later on, and now Zach Barrett does it every Monday as well. So it was just sort of doing that, and then I filled in a couple times, and I got a gig at the Brew House, kind of doing Tuesdays on it was more playing around on your phone. Yeah. And then Tipsy Trivia came up, and they said, well, we want someone to do the Friends trivia nights and the Grey's Anatomy trivia nights and stuff, which was hard for me because I've never watched an episode of Grey's Anatomy. But luckily, they gave me the questions.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I was just going to ask you that. How do you come up with the questions for all these? Do you come up with some, or are they supplied, or how does this work?
So I know that like when I would fill in for Steph at Tavern Trivia, and same with what Zach does today, they come up with all the questions themselves. And obviously, they'll be looking on the internet and they'll be like reading things on Wikipedia, and sometimes you'll go on like a Trivial Pursuit and like look up some questions. You're like, okay, that would be a good question to ask. Right. That would be a good question to ask. But like the specific genre ones, like when I did the Friends trivia, those are like, I swear, like those guys would like sit there and watch like episode by episode, and they're like, let's see if people remember what color shirt Rachel was wearing when she broke up with Ross the first time. And it's like, it's hardcore, but people get it right.
That's right.
Like, you'd be surprised how well people do at these trivia nights.
Yeah. Like I'm horrible at trivia. Mm-hmm. Horrible. Like my team never wins, but I like to go because like the questions, I'm like, there's no way anybody's going to get this right. Yeah. And somebody gets these questions right. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what people retain.
I remember when this was before I was doing it, and we went to it was a Wood Buffalo Brew Pub at the time, and they had a Seinfeld trivia night.
Yeah.
And me and two of my best friends, Jess and Dan Lipton, we are hardcore Seinfeld fans. Like, we are quoting Seinfeld fans to each other back and forth all the time, the time, the three of us, right? And so Jess actually ordered a puffy shirt for Dan, like the one that Jerry wears in the episode.
Yeah, the pirate shirt.
And I dressed up like George Costanza with like the swim goggles on because he forgot his glasses that one time, or they got stolen.
Right.
And so we went in like we're just all cocky, walking in, like strutting in, like, yeah, we got this. And even when the questions started happening, we missed a few, but we're getting all of them. We're like, we're nailing this. Turns out the table next to us was getting all the ones we were missing too, and we got like 4th place or something.
Really?
It was a big ego hit. We're like, oh no, do we even know this show?
Yeah. Time to go back and rewatch.
Yeah. Oh, which we do constantly.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you watch Comedians in Cars?
A little bit, yeah. I really like the format of the show. I just find, sometimes it's like when they get into the car stuff, not as interested. Cars aren't really my thing. Right. But when they start talking about comedy, that's always fascinating for me.
Now, in regards to what you went to school for and what you're doing for so long, radio, is there, you named some radio stations in Edmonton that you aspired to and you listened to. Is there any kind of personalities, maybe people on the internet or on the radio back in the day, that you watch and you're like, this guy is crushing it, I like this?
Yeah, I used to listen to, like I said, back in like Power 92, it was like Gary James and Audie Lins, I want to say, were like they were the morning show for the longest time. And like, I remember like seeing pictures of them later and being like, man, those guys were in their like 50s, but they were like appealing to me as like a 12-year-old, you know?
Right.
So, and like Rick Dees in the weekly top 40, used to jam that all the time. And then as I got older into high school and college, I really loved what Fearless Fred was doing. He was the afternoon guy on The Bear, and now he does The Edge in Toronto, and he hosts Teletoon at night. Like, that guy's got it going on, man.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And he's like, because he's always talking about like how much he loves like Robot Chicken and these adult cartoons. And then they're like, hey man, why don't you just come on and host Teletoon at night? And they're like, okay. Yeah. So he's got it made there in Toronto. He's doing really well for himself.
It's crazy the opportunities that present yourself when you throw yourself into the public
100%.
zeitgeist.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, with radio, you can get swallowed up in the busyness of it, and sometimes I sort of the way that radio is going now, at least for a lot of the major chains, is a lot of people are now doing shows in like 6 markets. Right. So it's like you're doing your morning show, and then you're voice tracking for this market, and then you're voice tracking for this market, and you're filling up your entire 8 hours just sitting in a booth by yourself. Right. And I found, to me, that was by far my least favorite part of radio, was when you're just sitting there. As much as it's good when you're making connections and you've got a good conversation going and people are texting and calling back. Right. But when you're just sitting there and you're like voice tracking for like a weekend show or something like that, it's just like, trying to have that enthusiasm, it's hard when there's nobody there, right? So when you get a co-host or something like that, it's a lot easier.
That's right. Enter Tanner. The one thing that you did, which I find fascinating, and I want to know why you decided to do this. You were on radio. It's a traditional medium. Yeah. But what you have done extremely well, better than anybody in Fort McMurray, in my personal opinion, is you transitioned over to social media excellently and started posting stories. And now you write this beautiful good news post on a daily basis. And you really leaned into this new medium in your own way and carved your own lane, and it's so good. Yeah. And I go out of my way not to look at stories. I know social media is bad. Yeah. And I know how addictive it is based on the business I'm in. Yeah. So I go out of my way not to look at certain things. But your stuff is how I figure out what's happening in Fort McMurray. Why did you transition into that, and how did that occur?
What I found is early on, like I said, you would go to all the events and you would go to every event, and for whatever reason, whether it was because you were with a certain group of friends or whatever, I found a lot of times you would go to an event and you wouldn't necessarily get a chance to interact with the people that put on the event. Right. And I totally understand why. Now, having put on events, when I did, I wasn't the one putting on Wood Buffalo Rib Fest as an example. That was, of course, Dennis and Brian Connect and Laura Cote. Right. But I was, helping out a lot with the band. So I was dealing with Trooper and Dan Davidson and making sure everything was all to their content, making sure everything was happy, making sure the sound was working, making sure the stage was all on time, all that stuff. So I would run into people all weekend long, and like I remember at one point, like during Trooper set, I was like, I'm just gonna like chill here and have a beer and kind of admire. And I was like, where did all these people come from? Like, it was packed, right?
That's right.
But I like people will still be like, oh yeah, man, I remember like seeing you. We had a chat, we had a conversation. I'm like, don't remember. I was probably like, yeah, cool. I gotta go. Trooper's calling, you know.
Yeah.
So when you're on those events, I find you're kind of tunnel vision a little bit. You're sort of getting through the event, making sure everything runs smoothly. But I did find that you do make a lot of connections with social media, and you know when you go to the event and then you tag them, and then you kind of get to know the movers and shakers, the people running the social media. Right. In many cases, that is the owners or the managers in this town, right? So you get to meet people and network that way, right? So I felt like it's important to start documenting, I guess, when you do go to all these events, right?
Right.
And I also find it's really helpful, like if you go to Mitchell's, or even like recently we ordered from Dedicate, and they have this cauliflower crust pizza.
Unbelievable.
And I was thinking like I could tell people about this in person, but I could also like tell everyone at once and like post about it on social media, and like people are messaging me like, how is it? Is it any good? It's amazing, by the way. It's probably one of the best pizzas in town, I would say. Yeah. So I just really like that interaction with people, and just sort of it's good. You can have a conversation with folks, and especially now with COVID and not being able to see people in real life, it's been really helpful.
Yeah. No, man, you kill it. Like, I mean that genuinely. Like,
thanks, man. I super appreciate it.
It's a really, really good job of what you do online. Like, it's you kill it.
The good news only thing was just, that was me looking for good news. There was so much bad news on Facebook and everywhere, and like, COVID numbers were shooting up, and then you have like, people are fighting about it, and people are fighting about politics and everything, and it's like, and then there's always crime stories and stuff, and I'm like, there's definitely good news stories. They don't get the traction on their own, right? When like Syncrude does a big donation, it gets some likes and stuff, but it doesn't get headline news like everything else does. Yeah. And the other thing I found was a lot of people were asking me, because I had worked up and have a pretty good following on Facebook, and they're like, hey, can you share this thing about my golf tournament? Can you share this thing? And I said, yeah, sure, absolutely. I'm down to share whatever. And I would go and share it, and then I found like maybe I'm posting too much, because suddenly the traction on the post is going down, and it's like Facebook's starting to flag you, and it's like if you share everything, it's not gonna have the same effect of sharing one or two things. Yeah. So then I sort of combined those two ideas, and I did good news only one day, and I was like, we need some positive news, and it kind of really took off right away.
It's amazing. It's a great concept. I'm all about promoting positivity too, hence like the Mac City Morning Show.
Absolutely, you guys are very positive here. I love it.
But I started reading this thing, and I'm like, this is genius. It's such a good idea. And when people say like, because the algorithm shows you what you want to see, it's a mirror of what you're looking at. And so sometimes you see a lot of negative stuff, because that's where you get kind of
you get caught up in arguments. I've really made an effort to stop going into the comment section.
That's right.
I mean, sometimes it can be fun, you light guys up or whatever, and it's like, what am I doing? What good is this doing really in the long run, right?
Yeah, man. No, it's awesome. I love it. So we are definitely going over time, but that's okay. But we have a segment on the show. It's Tanner's segment. It's called the Mac City Minute. Okay. So he's going to hit you up with 5 questions. Perfect. Best of luck to you. I have no idea what he's going to ask.
Oh, boy.
Tanner, Mac City Minute, my man.
Question number 1. What is your most memorable behind-the-scenes moment from your time at the radio?
From my time at the radio, it's memorable, not in a good way at all, but obviously the fire was a wild day, and the weeks that followed. But I remember like literally going home at one point to pack a backpack, and I was thinking like, oh, I'm probably just going to stay at the radio station and keep broadcasting tonight, not thinking we were going to have to evacuate fully and that like houses were going to burn down and everything, right? So I did grab a few things that I grabbed my ticket stub diaries from my concerts. Okay. And I just threw them in my backpack. I was like, just in case this can't be replaced, and fortunately I did, because our house was unfortunately one of the spots. Yeah. But just that day, and then we ended up broadcasting from the RCMP detachment in Timberlea, and so many people just reached out and were like, it was just good to hear a familiar voice, like somebody I know, rather than just that stoic like, this is the Alberta Emergency Alert.
That's right.
Not like a pleasant memory, like I said, but definitely the most memorable moment that happened in the radio world.
Cool.
Question number 2. What is one thing you learned at radio school that would shock people?
Ah, that's good. There's a lot of things. I think one of the things that I learned pretty early on when we first got into radio and I saw our schedule, because I went in right away and I'm like, I'm going to be an afternoon guy, or I'm going to be the evening guy. I'm going to be talking to people.
Yeah.
And then I found out that like there's all these other elements of radio too, which of course I knew, but I didn't think that people went to radio school for. I thought everyone that went to radio school wanted to be on air.
Right.
I didn't realize you could also go to radio school and become a producer, which is what Richard does at the radio station, at our station.
Yeah.
Or not my station anymore, but
Yeah.
97.9. He does all the, puts all the commercials together and everything. You can go to radio school to be a writer. So you write segments or you write commercials. You can go there to do sales. A lot of sales people have a marketing background, but some people come out of radio school and they just go into that naturally because they want to make a little bit more money.
Yeah.
And so I found that was pretty fascinating.
Question number 3. What is your favorite event you've attended in Fort McMurray?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, I actually used to get called out by my boss because I would say on the air, I was like, this is my favorite event in Fort McMurray. It's happening this weekend. And he'd be like, didn't you say that about this, this, and this? And I'm like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I know I've definitely said it about, I always like the Banff Mountain Film Festival, which is just a fun weekend at Keano. Super inspiring, right? You get on the big screen, you're just like, yeah. Ugly Sweater Party. You got to give props to that. It's just one of the funnest events. And I find that I love every gala and every event, but that one in particular, you see the regular gala crowd, and you also are seeing a lot of folks that you wouldn't normally see at those $200 ticket nights, right?
That's right.
So you get to see everybody. Everyone gets a shot.
Yeah.
Question number 4. What does uh-oh mean to you?
I'm kind of thinking about the game show in the 90s with Wink Yahoo and the Punisher.
Okay.
Which, looking at that as an adult now, the Punisher character was pretty weird. I don't know where they got his outfit, but I don't think it was child appropriate. Anyways, reflections on what the 90s were.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've had a few uh-oh moments. You put your foot in your mouth on the radio.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny, I still do on like Facebook sometimes, and I'm like, sometimes you're just kind of typing a rant and you're like, I probably shouldn't have worded it like that.
That's
so
right.
You have regrets, but luckily I haven't had anything too major happen in my life. I mean, I think the only time I ever swore on the radio was in like college radio very early on.
You're right.
And then I learned very quickly, it's like, man, that felt not good.
That's right.
to do, because I was like, even if nobody heard it, I was like, oh, what if somebody did?
Right.
And your final question, what is your favorite story from your time working at the Safeway gas bar?
Someone's been looking through the Facebook or the LinkedIn. I don't even know if I put that on my LinkedIn.
Safeway gas
bar.
bar.
Man.
Tanner crushing it.
We had some moments there at the Safeway gas bar for sure. I don't know how many of them were... we used to, there was this older security guard by the name of Jimmy, and he used to just come in and he would just come in and scratch lottery tickets and just chat with us all the time. And he was just a kind soul, right? And it was just sort of interesting to get his perspective, and like especially on those evening nights, like a lot of times, especially back in the day. This is like 10 years ago, not even. Pay at the pump was a thing, but it wasn't mandatory, so people would still be coming in to pay. But at the same time, in the evenings, you get to 9, 10 o'clock, you're getting like 3 or 4 customers an hour. So he would just kind of sit there and scratch his tickets and talk with us, and like I learned a lot from that guy, I think. So that's one of my favorite memories.
There you go.
And those have been your 5 questions.
Tanner, man, I'm always impressed.
The dig.
I'm always impressed. The thing about me and Tanner, and we said it a few times on the show, and I truly do mean this, we do zero preparation for this show. Like, zero.
On the fly, yeah.
So I know he's coming up with these questions, like, as you and me are talking.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind when he asks these questions. I'm like, man, good deep dive in, like, 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah,
it's funny. I did a little prep because I was just writing down like dates, like so I could remember when these events are happening.
That's right. Plug, right. No, we don't do any of that here.
Yeah, we don't plug. You can check all my Facebook. We'll have all the
we plug. We just don't remember.
Yeah, that's right.
That's true.
Yeah, it's funny that you said the Banff Film Festival. I love that event, and actually this year was virtual.
Yes, and I didn't actually end up making it to this year, but I did hear it was pretty fun. So.
Yeah, it was neat in regards to you could I bought tickets to it.
Yeah.
And so you had your membership for like a week. And so you could watch it at any point in time from your home. So I invited like my mom over,
Mm-hmm.
and we were able, because she was in the bubble,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it was cool. It was obviously not as good as like going down to
Yeah.
the theater at Keanu and
Because
looking
they have
at
the
it.
biggest screen. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that screen is like it's like right up there with landmark screens. I
Oh
think.
yeah, and
Yeah.
like just the environment.
Yeah.
It's you get so hot in there with all those people,
Yeah, and
especially
everyone's like,
during the tense moments. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
feel it.
like so. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a great festival. No,
You
if
feel
you've
it.
if you've never been, get tickets for next year because it always sells out too.
Yeah.
Right? It's usually in January. Hopefully,
That's right.
it won't be virtual this year.
We'll see.
Hopefully.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I hope not.
Yeah.
I know you have to be like myself and struggling with this
Absolutely.
lockdown,
Yeah.
not going out and doing things. I'm
Yeah.
itching.
I am too, and I'm kind of thinking like I'm just gonna live my best life this summer, and and
Yeah.
like obviously gonna be working hard with the new job, and we're planning a golf tournament and everything, and
Yeah.
just want to get out there and just
Yeah.
just enjoy every second. So like it's a kind of a cloudy, rainy day this morning, which
Yeah.
isn't the best, but like whenever that sun shines out, it's like even if I have to take my laptop on the back deck, I'm spending as much time outdoors as I can.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
summer because I've been cooped up all winter. It feels
That's right.
like, right?
That's right. Get that vitamin D.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's important. It'll keep you healthier.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we're gonna go over, but I gotta because I used to love radio when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. I used to have my own radio station, just like you.
Oh yeah.
I have horrible tapes.
Yeah, I got
but
some bad tapes too.
I know where they are.
Yeah.
And me and my buddy Pero used to have POP. That's what POP radio station.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, they're the horrible tapes.
Do other people know where these tapes are?
Yeah, we're not gonna. There might be one or two people who could.
Shout
get
out Pierre
these.
parents, get me those tapes.
Yeah.
They were. We had lots of
Let's
fun.
do an air check.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, but what inspired me to do it was there was a television show, WKRP in Cincinnati.
yeah.
Have you ever seen this show?
Oddly, not until about 4 or 5 years ago. Just I had a boss
Really?
at the time. Shout out John Knox. When he was our PD, he would constantly quote from that show.
Right.
And he would just be like even in air checks, he would say something, and I'm like, what? And he's like, you've never seen? How are you in radio and never saw the show? And I'm like, I
Right.
actually saw news radio before I saw WKRP.
another great show.
Another one with
Yeah,
Joe Rogan.
Joe
back
Rogan
in the
on
day,
that
before he
show.
was
And
even
Andy Dick.
what he is today. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Andy Dick. Yeah.
Yeah,
Phil Hartman too. Rest in
that's
peace.
right. RIP.
Yeah, WKRP. I just decided I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch it, and now of course I get most of the references, and now I'm like, oh, that's why sales guys are always making jokes about turkeys, the turkey
Yeah,
drop.
that's
out of the
right. That's right.
helicopter.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay, so you've watched it. I just assumed that everybody in radio would know that.
Yeah. I think even just from being in radio and hearing the older guys make the references, you're like, okay, I better go back and watch this show so I can understand now.
There
yeah.
you go. So this is the end of the show. We've went over, and that's okay. It happens from time to time. But this is a part of the episode where you do your shameless plug.
Okay.
So whatever you got going on, whatever you want to talk about, tell everybody out there what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, I got a couple things going on. We have our golf tournament happening for the first responders through the CMHA. Currently working on that. It's been postponed, which gives me a little bit extra time to find some more sponsors. It's happening on Friday, September 3rd at the Miskinaw Golf Course. So by all means, hope to see some folks out there. Tickets are going on sale pretty soon. Personally, I'm going to be bringing back Name That Tune on the 16th of June, the Wednesday night. So we're very excited now that restrictions have lifted and folks can gather back in cohorts and don't have to be from the same household inside the bar anymore.
Awesome.
So we're going to be bringing that back. It's always a huge success. People have been loving it. It kind of came from the trivia days, but now I combined my love for music and my love for trivia.
Yeah.
And I found this group in Fort McMurray. We have about 7 or 8 teams that come every single time we do it, and they wait for it. They
Nice.
practice for it.
Nice.
So it's a lot of pressure. I got to
Yeah.
find new songs to be able to try to stump these guys because they're pretty good. So
Yeah.
that's happening. And we're working on some things for Food Festival right now. It'll be a more modified year this year, but hoping to do a golf tournament, maybe some other events. And you can always check out all my stuff with Good News Only and a little thing I do called Stream of the Week by subscribing to the YMM Magazine weekly newsletter, which you
Okay.
can do at their website.
Cool. Awesome. Well,
I think
man,
that's everything. There's a few other
that's
things,
not everything.
probably.
I know you got way more,
Tip
but
of
that's
the
what you
iceberg,
remembered.
Tip of the iceberg. Yeah, exactly.
Sweet. Well, thank you for coming on the show, man. Like, there's so many things I still want to talk to you about that we didn't get to touch because it's 20-minute format.
Yeah.
But please, please, please come back again. We'd love to have you more and more.
Absolutely. I'm always down for a part 2.
There we go. Awesome. Well, Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo, and the rest of the world, thank you very much for tuning in. It's been the Mac City Morning Show. I've been your host, Elliot Pierre, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you for taking the time and spending with us. Hopefully you're having a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
I said this. That's another Mac City Morning Show done.
It's so ballistic!
Talk about quenching your ugly thirst.